word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple light.
Before we get started, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click. What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so before we jump into anything, I do want to remind you all that this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I will be at Brooklyn Comic-Con at the Brooklyn Expo Center, June 15th and 16th. I will be doing some panels. I'll be walking around. I'll be shaking hands, kissing babies. Maybe not kissing babies, but I will be in Brooklyn, New York. I will be out hanging out. I'll be hanging out with my guy Devontae from Alternative Factuals. I'll be hanging out with my girl Fantastic Frankie. So if you want to stop by and say hi, feel more than free to come check out Blerd Without Fear in Brooklyn at the Expo Center, June 15th and 16th, plus Ultra. Now let's get on with the show. Okay, so in this video today, what we're going to be talking about, we are going to be talking about War of the Realms. We're continuing it. We're continuing with the tie-in content. So let's go ahead and start with Captain Marvel by Kelly Thompson and Ana Paula Martello. Captain Marvel is kind of a weird one because at first, as I was reading it, I didn't really understand exactly where the book was going, but basically what's going on here is that this is kind of focusing on what's going on in Rio de Janeiro, South America, which is kind of the foothold of where Amora the Enchantress has been raising up her army of the dead and allowed her to take control of South America. War Avengers, Bucky Barnes, and the Black Widow are out here trying to hold back Amora when Black Widow sees an opening and tries to assassinate Amora on the spot to just go ahead and end the fight, as, you know, any person would probably try and do. There's only one problem though, is that the Enchantress blasts Black Widow with a spell and gets a little bit of precognitive blowback that allows her to see the future, and she sees through Amora's eyes the Enchantress's eventual defeat at the hands of Doctor Strange. She even recognizes that Amora is terrified of Doctor Strange, and alongside Doctor Strange are Black Widow and Captain Marvel. Now, Amora sees this and realizes that Black Widow sees this too and tries to take her out. So this pretty much leads Black Widow on a merry chase to try and track down Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange. And this book is really interesting. I like it. There's a lot of really good comedy, some commentary on both the characters of Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange that I think a lot of people try to ignore the fact that both Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange are kind of asshole characters. They're characters who, I think sometimes in the case of Doctor Strange, people like to assume that Doctor Strange is a really nice person, but he's actually a dick. And the fact that they're type A personalities, they're very controlling, they want to be in control of everything, and this is kind of where the book kind of flips everything on its head and got me really interested, is because Amora being proactive, realizing what Black Widow is going to try and do to try and bring this future to pass, Amora decides to play a little Freaky Friday with Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel, body swapping them, leading to Doctor Strange being in Captain Marvel's body with no idea of how her powers work, and Captain Marvel being trapped inside Doctor Strange's body, a woman who is normally one of the most powerful beings on the face of the planet, now constantly feeling the pain that Doctor Strange feels in his hands on a day-to-day basis, and not able to wield Doctor Strange's most powerful weapon, his magic. And it's really crazy because they're both trying to tell each other what to do and trying to get the other to see their side of things. And the more you kind of read this, the more you realize they're both saying the same thing. They're both trying to get each other to do the same thing. And this is exactly what Amora wanted. Amora knew there would be miscommunication between the two. They have the same ideas. They want to achieve the same thing. But at the end of the day, because of their personalities clashing with each other, because they are literally the same person almost, it's going to make it that much more difficult for them to work together. And because Captain Marvel doesn't know how to use Doctor Strange's abilities, and Doctor Strange doesn't know how to use hers, now they're really up shit's creek when Amora's armies come after them. Now, this book, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, it's a fun romp, it's great, it's amazing, I really enjoyed it, though I will be the first one to admit, as much as I love this book, it's not really essential. I would say this is a book you would only enjoy if you are a Captain Marvel fan, or you just really want to see more of what's going on in the other parts of the world during War of the Realms. Now let's switch gears and fly by with War of the Realms Tony Stark Iron Man number 12 by Gail Simone and Paolo Vianelli. Now this one is also another really interesting one because we see in Jotunheim that Malekith has reached out to an ancient dragon by the name of Solderfang, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not terribly familiar with the character of Solderfang. I don't really know who he is. However, I will say I find it really interesting that he does have the second of 3 Eye of Agamottos, which we learned, I think, in the recent issue of Savage Avengers, that a 3rd Eye of Agamotto exists. So this is 2 of the 3 Eyes of Agamotto that exist in the Marvel Universe. It's pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, what's really going on here is that he has been sent to take out Iron Man. Malekith wants to take Iron Man off the playing field because Iron Man is a threat to Malekith, if for no other reason than the fact that he possesses the ability to create advanced technology that can aid the Avengers in stopping the War of the Realms, but more importantly, he is literally covered in Malekith's weakness, iron. So that being said, this is even more reason why Malekith wants Iron Man off the table. And in the background of all this, we know that Tony Stark, because he just recently came back from the dead, Tony Stark is struggling with his inner demons again, of course, dealing with alcoholism, dealing with, well, everything else that Tony Stark deals with. And though that plays a bit of a part in all this, ultimately, this is still kind of more played for laughs, because it's the whole fish out of water thing with Solderfang, where he doesn't understand Earth customs, and he just kind of shows up as if he is in some medieval D&D fantasy tale, and that's not exactly the case. And there's even a passing joke about the fact that Solderfang actually kind of respects Tony Stark for having recently defeated Fin Fang Foom, so it's one of those things like, yeah, it's cute, and I really like it, and it's really well written because, it's Gail Simone, of course. It's going to be well written. And, of course, we also learn that during Iron Man's encounter with Solderfang, something happens that causes him to begin literally leaking magic. We don't really know what it is, what he did, what's going on here, so there's that. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really have anything to do with War of the Realms. This is really just one of those things, if you really want to see some Iron Man, and you really want to see some more War of the Realms, like just stuff that's kind of more fantasy based, this is the book for you. But if you're trying to get a deeper perspective on what's going on in War of the Realms, I'd say this is not the place to get it. Which hurts me because I really love Gail Simone. She is the salt of the earth and just a wonderful human being and a great writer, and it actually pains me to say this is not essential. Next up on the hit parade, we're going to talk about the War of the Realms Journey into Mystery number 4 by the McElroys and Andre Lima Araujo. And in this one, this is just more of a continuation of what was going on with the last issue, where the team discovers that Laussa is in fact not 100% Odin and Freya's daughter. And I know someone in the comments for the last video kind of did a more in-depth breakdown of all the stuff that happened. I'm not going through all that because it just would take way more time than I want to give, but I will give you the Cliff Notes version of that and just let you know that it is in this issue that we are recapped on the idea. So if you weren't reading Mighty Thor or Journey into Mystery, Everything Burns, or Angela Asgard's Assassin, if you never read any of those, then in this book we get kind of a Cliff Notes version of the idea that when Odin and Freya met in the realm between realms, which is essentially where they defeated Surtur, they decided to have a little brown chicken, brown cow action. Only problem was that Surtur's existence wasn't 100% removed from the realm between realms, so his essence was still there. So technically, when they were making babies, Surtur was involved too, so it gets really weird here. But just know that basically Laussa is technically a Muspelheim spawn as well as being Asgardian, and the reason we imagine that Cinder wants Laussa is because Laussa technically is a legitimate threat to Cinder's throne. Then we also find out that the ghosts in the ghost town, they also want to protect Laussa. We even get a little bit of a cameo from Kushala, who is the demon rider, who I want to say we haven't seen since Doctor Strange and the Sorcerers Supreme, so I thought it was pretty cool. It was really interesting. And of course, they are also hitting hard times because the team needs money because they're out of diapers. Because this is technically a comedy book. So you gotta remember that. They decide to make a pit stop at a casino to pick up a few racks so that they can have gas to keep going, food to eat, and diapers for Laussa. Only problem is when they get to the casino, it just so happens to be Henchfest, which is basically a convention for henchmen. And this is where, like, you know, wacky shenanigans are going on. I'm not gonna go into all of them. Just know that it's really cute, it's funny, it's great. While the gang is trying to pull off this jackpot coup, Ares happens to show up when the only person protecting Laussa is Thori. And Thori, though he gives as good as he gets, he's not enough to stop Ares, and Ares makes it off with Laussa. And the gang doesn't find out that she's gone until it's too late, so now Ares is on the road again and about to deliver Laussa to Cinder. Now, once again, like I said, I have pretty much said that this book is essential because it does actually tie a little bit more into the War of the Realms than most other tie-in books do. Now, this particular issue, this one's kind of hit or miss because, yes, it does tie into War of the Realms, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on that doesn't really tie in. It's actually probably more comedic than any of the other issues before it, but I am going to go ahead and say it's essential because I do feel like Laussa is going to play a role in all this at some point. We just don't know what role that is. So I'm going to say, as I've said before in the past, this book, it is essential. Next up, and the final book on the hit parade, we're going to talk about The War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas #3 by Greg Pak and Gang Hyuk Lim. This book is very misleading, and I say this because the front cover of this book, the cover of this book basically is just like grave miscalculations, and it's got the classic, like, kind of a throwback to the old, like, 80s, 70s and 80s comics, when you would, you know, have, like, you know, the plot of the book, or at least, you know, kind of a Cliff Notes version of the plot of the book, you know, kind of spelled out for you on the front cover. This one does the same, but it's very misleading because it's all like, it's Jimmy Woo telling Amadeus Cho that, oh, you failed as a leader, Amadeus, we've lost because of you. That's actually not the case. This book is very well misleading you on all of that. No, this book is actually about how Amadeus Cho is able to lead the team properly and get them, despite the fact that he can't seem to get people like the Monkey King and Red Feather and Kodak to go along with his plan. It's like they don't really believe that, you know, he's got what it takes to lead or call shots. And though the rest of the team have faith in Amadeus, you can tell that some people are kind of in a rough spot. They're hurting because at the end of the last issue, a lot of the characters got their asses handed to them. But at the end of the day, Amadeus Cho shows up. He steps up and he gets in Cinder's face, fighting off her fire goblin armies, basically soloing a World of Warcraft raid when he eventually winds up telling everyone to get the hell out of Dodge while he continues to hold off Cinder and her fire goblin army. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is able to stop Cinder's plan to melt the ice caps and basically drown most of the world. What we learn in this book is that Cinder has other ideas. Now, we know that, you know, from what's going on in the Journey into Mystery, we know that, you know, she's trying to get Laussa, but we also learn here that she actually doesn't want to work with Malekith. She has other ideas. She wants to cover the entire world in fire. She wants to drown the world first and then burn it immediately after and basically turn Earth itself, all of it, into New Muspelheim. She has no plans of sticking out her allegiance with Malekith. So this is very interesting information. I think it's pretty cool. And she's doing it on the slick. She's trying to do it without Malekith finding anything out, even using the Black Bifrost. So this kind of also lets us know this takes place before the Black Bifrost is destroyed. But yeah, this book is really cool. It has some really funny business in it. There's Shang-Chi gets some really cool moments in this. He basically gets to son the Swordmaster and Monkey King, which I thought was really cool. That was some pretty cool business there. And we also learned that apparently spam is a delicacy in Korea. So there you go. There's that. Everyone was excited about that. And also at the same time, Shang-Chi, because we know that a lot of modern weapons don't work against Cinder, because you got to remember that she has basically shut down anything that requires fire to be used. So Shang-Chi is also teaching them very special kung fu techniques to help them in their fight against Cinder. So that's really cool. But at the end of the day, we learn that, yeah, Amadeus Cho is still out here. He is still trying to fight it off, but he does wind up falling by the end of it. And the thing is, he's taking a warrior's sacrifice because he is basically allowing himself to be captured by Cinder by the end of this book. So I got a feeling that the next issue, which is going to be the final issue of New Agents of Atlas, at least as far as War of the Realms is concerned. I think it's going to be really good. I'm very interested in seeing where this goes. I do think this is probably more essential than any of the books that have come before it, just because you do learn more about what Cinder's motivation is in helping Malekith. That's really very self-serving, but at the end of it all, yes, I will go ahead and say this book definitely, I would say, more essential than not. But that is pretty much it. That is everything in War of the Realms this week. Anyways, let me know what you think about War of the Realms so far. Sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. And tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!